Hello, everyone. So I'm really excited to film a video that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. I want to talk about the Academy Awards. I get to talk about my love of film, but also, of course, what I talk about mostly on this channel, music. And I'm going to be specifically talking about the Academy Award for Best Original Song, a category that has existed at the Academy Awards, also known as the Oscars. I think we all are familiar with what those are. Since 1934, which was the seventh Academy Awards broadcast that had been held since the inception of it in 1929, when the contest was first ever held. It has since been held every single year for the last 94 years. So the first ever song to win this award was called The Continental by Con Conrad and Herb Magidson from the movie The Gay Divorcee, a song I will confess I have never heard. And because there is such a long history, almost 90 years, of Academy Award Best Original Song winnings, that is almost 90 songs that I would have to be ranking in this video. And so I've chosen to cut that number down significantly by continuing a series that I'm doing particularly aptly this year, due to me having turned 30 years old this spring. I have decided I want to do a series this year where I rank everything in a category such as this in the last 30 years of my lived history on this planet. So going back to 1993. I already have made a video 2 months ago. I filmed and uploaded a video ranking the Grammy Awards Song of the Year recipient. And I did that for 1993 to the most current contest that was held this year. And I decided, and I said in that video, that I would also be doing one for the Academy Awards in their category of Best Original Song. And so I'm continuing this series with this video. However, I am not going to be ranking all 90 songs that we have had nominated in the history. I'm going to stick with 1993 to 2023, which is technically 31 songs. It's not an even 30, but still, I feel like this is a good time for me to look at my lived history of these awards and rank those songs based on my own personal preference. And so I'm going to be talking about them all in order from my least favorite to most. And, this is, of course, just my opinion. I will preface this. It's hard sometimes to do these rankings. A lot of these songs I had never heard before until doing this video, though about 50% of them I had. And so, some songs I just don't have the familiarity with them that lead them to grow on me over time, like others have had the privilege of doing so. So keep that in mind. My opinion may change over time. But I'm excited to talk about this because I think that the Oscars category for Best Original Song is a really interesting one. It's a category that I feel definitely should exist. Obviously, we also have the category for Best Original Score, which is an award that goes to the composer or composers of the entire soundtrack, usually released as a promotional CD for a film. That is also an award that has been given in the similar length of time of the history of the contest. And maybe one day I will make a video about ranking at least the last 30 odd years or so of Best Original Score recipients. But today I'm going to focus on Best Original Song. And a lot of the time, the Best Original Song winner does not actually come from the soundtrack that is nominated for Best Original Score. It does happen probably about 50% of the time, but it does not always happen. Similarly to the sort of Record of the Year versus Song of the Year split, then there's also the Album of the Year award at the Grammys, and I talked all about that in that video, and I highly recommend watching. There is going to be overlap in how these categories, the academies don't always give all the love to one project, and I actually like that. I kind of like seeing the love get spread around a little bit, but sometimes it's definitely deserved that the Best Original Score also houses the Best Original Song. Similarly to the Grammy Award videos for Song of the Year, there are going to be a couple overlaps in songs that have won the prestigious title of Grammy Song of the Year and or Record of the Year, but also Best Original Song at the Oscars. There are going to be 3 instances of that happening in my 1993 to 2023 analysis. And so there are 3 songs of overlap that are going to be predictably ranked if you've seen my previous video. But if you haven't, you'll have that as a somewhat surprise. and I'll talk about each one as it comes up. A little bit more just brief history. I know you could Wikipedia this, but maybe it's useful for me to just present it just in the context of this video. As I said, Best Original Song has dated back to 1934. Originally, there was no limit to the number of nominees that could be nominated. It was basically up to the Academy boards what songs they felt like deserved going in. Maybe there was a really good year and like a ton of songs could be nominated. I believe the most songs to ever be nominated was in 1945, where 14 songs were nominated. That's an insane amount of songs. Following that year, they decided to tone things down and appointed a system that sort of kept the number of nominees down to roughly 5 per year, though it has fluctuated. In 2010, only 4 songs were nominated. And in 1988, 2005, and 2008, only 3 were nominated. 2011 is the year that had the fewest, with only 2, at least in recent history. Following 2011, the rules were changed once again as they realized that this system that they were using of point scoring for songs, which didn't always allow for a ton of songs to make it to pass the threshold to be nominated, because they wanted more songs in each category, the number of nominations is now contingent upon the number of submissions. So depending on how many songs are submitted to the Oscars, depending if it's more or less, the number is always going to be whittled down to about 5 nominees. And there have been 5 nominees since 2011, with the exception of 2013, when one of those was disqualified. For the 2014 Academy Awards, they decided sort of last minute to rescind a nomination for an obscure Christian song, Alone Yet Not Alone. The reason given by the Academy for the disqualification was the composer, Bruce Broughton, personally soliciting votes from Academy members via email, which they deemed gave the song an unfair advantage as it was largely heavily influenced personally by the composer. Usually, and this is controversial, and we saw this year with the actual 2023 Academy Awards, in that the Andrea Riseborough situation, an unknown actress and from a very unknown film, sneaking into a nomination spot for Best Actress, beating out the odds of who was supposed to take that spot. And it was largely fueled by a sort of grassroots campaign by a lot of actors in the industry who felt that this needed to happen. And so it was a very sort of surprise shock nomination. And some people have viewed it as controversial. And so this is apparently an incident where a similar thing happened, but this time the Academy did act and they snubbed the song. It was from a film that apparently very few people had seen. It is apparently a film about these 2 girls who got abducted by Native Americans in the 1700s, and Christianity was what kind of saved them from what I'm gathering is the heathenism of Native American culture. And, I think there might have been some political undertones to the song getting the snub, because the more I researched this film, I'd never heard of it before filming this video, the more dubious its political implications are. It is, a song endorsed by Rick Santorum. So take that as it will. This is definitely not something I think the Academy really wants to, especially given their, treatment of Native American Indigenous actors in the past. This is not something they want to be tied up in. So I don't think that this snub is something we're all, boo-hooing, though I have not heard the song. Anywho, besides that little aside, I am going to be talking about each year the song, obviously, that won, but I'm also going to be talking about the nominees and what song maybe I felt should have won. There are a lot of instances where I think the correct song did, but there are obviously, just like in my Grammy Song of the Year video, a ton of instances where I think they got it wrong. So I will be going into that. Again, it's just so fun to look back. I followed and loved the Oscars, but I never, 2004 was around the first time I really sat down and watched it with my family. But I didn't really start actually following the Oscars seriously until about 2013, about 10 years later, when I was in college. So a lot of this sort of went over my head, all of these nominees and songs that have won, even if I've heard them before, I just didn't follow, the nominees and the sort of process of seeing, the betting odds and all of that. It's kind of fun to get wrapped up in today. And I confess that these years I get very much into it. I love seeing the list of nominees and then betting who's going to win and seeing all the channels talk about it. So I'm very invested in the Oscars now, but I wasn't not that long ago. So this has been a really fun, and doing this video, I'm still going to be learning a lot about nominees that I didn't know were nominated in certain years. So this is going to be a fun sort of way to learn about the history of at least the last 30 years. Special shout out to Beauty and the Beast, which was the Academy Award for Best Original Song in 1992, the year before I was born. I feel that song is one of the best Disney songs ever composed, with Angela Lansbury, Alan Menken composing. I mean, it's just an absolute classic. Sadly, it doesn't qualify for this list, so it won't be on there, but I did want to give a special shout out to it. Of course, we have classics like Over the Rainbow by Judy Garland, Que Sera Sera, Moon River, Chim Chim Cheree from Mary Poppins, and Under the Sea from The Little Mermaid as some of the highlight songs, at least for me, looking at the rich history of songs nominated in the past, pre-1993. So special shout out to those, but we are going to be focusing on my lived experience. And without any more preamble, let's get into this with my 31st ranking of Oscar Best Original Song Awards, which will go to...
Not like taking from a girl, don't know no better. I know they ain't right. They seen people kill, they seen people deal, they seen people live in poverty with no meal. It's messed up where I live, but that's just how it is.
Hard Out Here for a Pimp by 3-6 Mafia, also known as Juicy J, DJ Paul, and Fraser Paul. This is from the movie Hustle and Flow. This hip-hop song has been, lauded as a triumph for hip-hop and a rightful winner for the Academy Award that year. Now, looking here at the nominees, this was a year where there were only 3. The other 2, one from something I've never heard of, In the Deep by Kathleen York and Michael Becker, the other being Traveling Through by Dolly Parton from the film Transamerica. If I look at those 2 nominees and I see this, I'm like, okay, I somewhat understand how this might have won. I would have given it to Dolly Parton, but I'll let that slide. But it's not hard for me, looking at the list of songs I'm going to be talking about today, to decide which one was going to go at the bottom. If you know my channel and my music taste, you will know that hardcore, male-driven hip-hop is not really my thing. It's not really my culture. And I respect it and I appreciate it for what it is, what it contributes, the lyricism, the artistry there. But I don't even really think that this song is that interesting in terms of its flow or in terms of its sonic structure, in terms of its beat. I do think it has something to say, and for that reason, I'm not completely against it being nominated. And like I said, out of the contenders, the other 2, I guess I'm okay with it winning. But this is definitely a lackluster entry from a film that I must confess I have never seen. So I don't have that emotional connection to. And again, I'm going to preface and let you know if I've seen the movie that the song is attached to, because that plays a huge role in whether the song has a little bit more sentimental value, I think. But it doesn't look like particularly a movie of interest to me. It is about a Memphis hustler and self-called pimp trying to become a rapper, a world-class rapper. And so that story in itself doesn't really appeal to me. I hate to say it. I'm sure it's a well-made and well-directed film. Taraji P. Henson is a phenomenal actress. Terrence Howard. But it's just not something I feel compelled to watch, and it is not a song I feel compelled to listen to more than once. So for that reason, it goes at the bottom. Poco a poco al frío, creo que he visto una luz al otro lado del río. So next at number 30, we have a Spanish song that I never had heard of before making this video, from a film I had also never heard of before making this video, Al Otro Lado del Rio, which means the other side of the river, sung by Jorge Drexler, originally for the soundtrack for the film, and performed by Antonio Banderas and Carlos Santana at the 2005 Academy Awards. The version that is performed live is a lot more upbeat than the version that we get, which is a very simple, strictly acoustic Spanish guitar melodramatic ballad. I must admit, I kind of do prefer the studio cut of this song. It is very calming. It's very lackadaisical. It takes its time, but it speaks of journeying across rivers in the face of obstacle and opposition, paddling across to a distant shore. There's a very metaphysical, sort of spiritual undertone to the kind of vagueness of the lyrics. Not everything is lost. So many tears, and I'm an empty glass. I hear a voice that calls me, almost a sigh. Row, row, row in the shore of the world. It is from a film that I have not seen called The Motorcycle Diaries, which is a biopic film from 2004 about Ernesto Guevara, the soon-to-be Marxist guerrilla leader who led the Cuban Revolution, known as Che Guevara. And the film is largely around the 1952 motorcycle exhibition across South America by Guevara and his friend, as they formulate their political beliefs and become motivated and galvanized to start their revolution. It sounds like an interesting film. It is one that I'm much more willing to see than Hustle and Flow. And there seems to be a coming-of-age whimsicality to the sound of the song paired with from what I'm getting from the movie. Rather sadly, Jorge Drexler, the writer of the song, was not asked to perform at the Academy Awards, and it is speculated by one Spanish newspaper that it was due to him not being very well known. They wanted some bigger names, and it is very common for the writer of the song to not actually be the one performing it at the Academy Awards. A lot of the time, it's a composer and lyricist who wrote a song for someone else to sing in the film. You see that a lot with Disney, for example. You know, the singer of the song is not the one who wrote it. And so it's another case where they recruited two Latin heavyweight actors to sell the song, but I don't think they quite capture the whimsy and sort of emotionality of it in their performance. But I will admit it's a sleepy number, and out of the context of all the songs we have, which, you know, these are good songs, right? We're not talking about garbage here, right? The Academy, I do, you know, respect to the most part, their level of prestige in their honorees. And so I'm not saying the song is bad. I'm just saying out of these 31 entries, it doesn't strike that much memorability for you. It's a little bit lackluster. And so for that reason, unfortunately, I do have to put it at 30, though this was tricky. This was tricky for me to rank. The song I'm about to talk about next could have easily overtaken it. It is also important to state that this was the first song in Spanish, first song to win that is sung in Spanish entirely. So next up, we have Elton John from his biopic in 2019, I'm Gonna Love Me Again, his new original song that he wrote for the film, that he composed along with his songwriter Bernie Taupin for this biopic, that is also performed by Taron Egerton. Although Taron does not perform at the actual Academy Awards, it is sung by him on the studio version, half and half. Taron, of course, playing a young Elton John in the film. Now, I have seen Rocket Man, and I will say that I definitely enjoyed the film. I learned a lot about Elton from it. I think that you could definitely feel, compared to a biopic like Bohemian Rhapsody, where the person who is the subject of it, unfortunately, had no control into how it was made. Similarly to Elvis this past year, Rocket Man felt like this was a project that I can't really critique because Elton had ultimately had the final say in how he was portrayed. And it felt actually authentic to his vision and how he wanted to be remembered for his career. Even if it's a tad self-indulgent, it's a biopic, that he's getting to create for himself. He's allowed a little bit of that self-indulgence. And this song screams self-indulgent. It's chasing after the melodies of his great hits without ever landing. It just doesn't have the melody or the memorability for it. It's a shame because I really do believe that Elton has it in him to still write great music. But, he has been so much a retreader of his past hits for so long. He's continually going on his farewell tour. He seems to be very much stuck in the 70s and 80s with his music, that, he's not really pushing the envelope any further with the songs he writes today, if he ever does compose new music. And so I'm Gonna Love Me Again. It's upbeat, it's campy, it's everything you'd expect from an up-tempo Elton John pop song, but it doesn't do anything for me in terms of memorability, and the melody just really doesn't stick. So for that reason, I had to rate it on the lower side. I'm not entirely sold that it should have won. I think that the Cynthia Erivo song Stand Up for the movie Harriet, or even Into the Unknown from Frozen 2, would have been perhaps my contenders. But I don't hate it out of this group of nominees we had for 2019. Have the 2010 Best Original Song winner, The Weary Kind, by Ryan Bingham and T-Bone Burnett. This is from the movie Crazy Heart, a movie starring Jeff Bridges, who is playing a down and out country singer songwriter trying to make amends in his life. And The Weary Kind is a fitting, subdued, mellow country ballad that touches on a certain point that a lot of men, I think, get in their lives, where they have dug themselves too deep into their bad habits, drinking too much whiskey, partying too much, not being serious with their relationships, wrecking a lot of things behind them, and realizing that what they've always wanted is something they've been pushing away for quite some time: a true love's kiss, a safe place for the weary kind. It's time to leave the dive bar and settle down. And so the sentiment is dime a dozen. What you'd expect for a film of this nature. I have not seen the film. I have no interest in seeing the film. Country stuff is similar to the hip hop thing. Like, male country stuff is not entirely my thing. I'm sure Jeff Bridges does a phenomenal job with the role. Ryan Bingham has a wonderful voice. But again, memorability is going to be the key word here. The melody is just not gratifying in the way I feel a best original song can really be. I believe that Down in New Orleans from The Princess and the Frog would have been my deserved winner. Also, Almost There, a similar song, both by Randy Newman. He's a Oscar heavyweight for Disney. Would have been perfect contenders. But Disney usually wins out, but they did not this year.
Won't come out, he's choking how? Everybody's choking now, the clock's run out, time's up, over, plow, snap back to reality, oh, there goes gravity, oh, there goes gravity, choke.
So putting this down at place number 27, you may be surprised that this one is as high as it is, knowing me and what I said about male hip hop. I can't deny that Eminem's Lose Yourself from the film 8 Mile from 2002 has a certain undeniability with it. It carries such weight and such attitude and energy that listening to, I feel somewhat electrified by, even as a person who does not listen to Eminem. I really don't vibe with his music. But it couldn't bring myself to rank it below the 4 songs I've already talked about. Because at the end of the day, I think there is something iconic about the song. His flow, his confidence, the youthful sort of breaking onto the scene of Eminem in the early 2000s that enshrouded the sort of milestone of him winning this award. I can't help but feel like this is just one of those more memorable, even if it's not to my taste, awards for the contest. I have not seen the film 8 Mile. I don't really have a desire to, but I respect it. I respect it. Lose Yourself is talking about real problems, real stuff. As far as Eminem lyrics go, I mean, Eminem is always very real, very blunt in his delivery, but there is something very endearing about the angst and fire and passion that he brings to the song. And looking at the other nominees, a bunch of them I've never heard, so I can't really say if I feel it was the most deserved. I'm actually shocked looking at this that a song from the Wild Thornberries movie was nominated. Am I looking at this correctly? That is actually ridiculous. I remember seeing that movie. It's a Nickelodeon movie. And the fact that that movie is anywhere in Oscar contention is just absolutely, absolutely crazy. But I suppose the movie musical Chicago getting snubbed was probably surprising for many at the time.
If I'm gonna make it through the day, then there's no more use in running. This is something I gotta face.
Next up, we have the 2016 winner, Writings on the Wall by Sam Smith. So here's where we get a ton of James Bond closing credit songs. The Oscars really love a James Bond song, don't they? This was a recurring theme for them. If there's an Oscar, if there is a James Bond closing credits song nominated, it is a given that it is going to win, at least in the modern history of the contest. And it's very evident here with the 2016 winner. Now, Sam Smith, I think, is a wonderful singer for a James Bond ballad. Don't get me wrong. I think he serves, jazzy, melancholic melody of a James Bond ballad wonderfully. But the melody of Writings on the Wall feels very rehashed and meandering. It does not have the immediate ability, it does not have the immediacy or the emotional gravitas of songs like Skyfall or even Billie Eilish's No Time to Die. And therefore, I ranked it below those entries for that reason. Writings on the Wall is just rather forgettable for me, and it's not a song that I feel has that much staying power melodically. But props to Sam Smith for doing hitting vocally. I do remember he won this award. He falsely claimed that he was the first gay man to ever win an Academy Award. And of course, Elton John was probably sitting there just very puzzled when that happened. But anyway, Sam Smith was in the heat of the moment. He might have not expected to win and didn't quite know what to say when he was on stage. But I remember that was a whole thing. But looking at the nominees, the only one I would potentially maybe have given it to would have been Till It Happens to You from The Hunting Ground by Lady Gaga and Diane Warren. Even though I wasn't a huge fan of that song, I loved the message behind it, but I was not a huge fan of that Lady Gaga song itself. So giving it to Spectre and Writing on the Wall is not that egregious of a snub for me because I wasn't really feeling the other nominees. Even though if I had control over the Academy Awards, that year I would have nominated Strong by Sana Rele from the closing credits to the 2015 live-action Cinderella directed by Kenneth Branagh. I love that song. I know it's very cheesy, teen girl movie kind of music, but I just thought it was just like such an uplifting melody. So I don't know. That song got a little snubbed for me. But anyway. All right.
City of stars, are you shining just for me? City of stars.
Okay, so this is probably the first real hot take of the video. People would probably rank City of Stars by Justin Hurwitz for La La Land a lot higher than spot number 25. But I gotta be honest with you, the song doesn't really go anywhere. It starts out strong. There's just this very whimsical piano melody that Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone interpolate and have fun with, but it's short and it doesn't quite rise into the orchestral, symphonic opus I want it to be. I feel like it's wasted potential on the melody. Now, I have to confess, La La Land is a movie that I still to this day have not seen. And I really should. I really should. I don't know what it was about it that kind of made me not feel like rushing to the theater or rushing to rent or buy the movie. I guess it's not like I'm not a huge classic, movie musical person because I find them very schmaltzy, and this seemed like a Singing in the Rain knockoff kind of movie. I just didn't feel that compelled by the story, Los Angeles love story. I don't really care. The classic Hollywood, I'm not that interested. Moonlight, which was the film that actually won the Academy Award, not thanks to that Oscar envelope switch controversy, which was one of the most jaw-dropping things I've ever seen on live TV. That was something to witness. I'm glad I watched that live because that was that was something else. Moonlight was just a far more interesting story to me, but mainly because I am a queer man, and I think the story of Moonlight is just a lot more interesting to me than whatever La La Land was offering in heterosexual Hollywood land over there. But I remember, my parents saw it and they told me it was good, and I probably would have watched it if I had been around. It just wasn't in town at the time. And so La La Land has been skipped by me, but maybe one day I will finally get around to it. I have heard the music is good. I'm not surprised. Justin Hurwitz is a heavyweight songwriter, composer. He does write amazing melodies. So for film, I can't snub at that. John Legend performs the song in a medley between two songs, the other one being Audition. La La Land is a film that had two songs nominated. That is not uncommon for the Oscars. The first film to ever receive multiple nominations was Fame in 1980. And since then, only four films have ever had three songs from their soundtrack nominated, that being Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, Dreamgirls, and Enchanted. Dreamgirls and Enchanted did lose every single nomination, which is kind of a shame, especially for Dreamgirls. And following that, there was a rule that no more than two songs per film could ever be nominated. And La La Land is one of the only ones to have that happen in recent history, along with The Princess and the Frog in 2009. And I'm definitely happy with City of Stars winning. However, how far I'll go from Moana would have, again, been my personal pick. I do think that is a pretty strong Disney classic. However, I am just very, very happy that Can't Stop the Feeling from Trolls, performed by Justin Timberlake, did not win. That song is a scourge. I'm sorry.
You and me together, that's how it always should be. One without the other don't mean nothing to me.
Moving on, we have If I Didn't Have You by Randy Newman from Monsters, Inc. This is always going to be the song to me that beat out Enya for Best Original Song at the Oscars in 2002. And it is always going to frustrate me because this song really is better than May It Be from The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. I'm very biased as an Enya fan, but I still don't quite get it. It feels to me like this song was awarded more so for the snub of You've Got a Friend in Me in 1996 from the iconic Toy Story than it is anything else. Because If I Didn't Have You is nowhere near as iconic or strong as You've Got a Friend in Me. And there's another Randy Newman Toy Story movie that will win the Academy Award after this one that I also think is stronger and deserved it over this one. So If I Didn't Have You, it's perfectly fine. But May It Be from Lord of the Rings was robbed. I know Enya was very nervous during that live performance, but the live performance doesn't factor. The votes have already been cast. The decision has already been made. That song in itself definitely should have won. But what are we going to do? The Lord of the Rings luckily did get a lot of love in a lot of categories, especially its third film, The Return of the King, which we will talk about. But I would argue that May It Be, is May It Be stronger than Into the West? That's a conversation that I'm not willing to have with my own brain right now because I love both songs equally so much and I just can't. I don't know. It's like picking between your two children, we all kind of agree that Gollum's song, the Two Towers film, which that was the one Lord of the Rings song to not be nominated, got a little bit, it's not nearly as, one of these is not like the other. It was noticeably not nominated for the 2003 Academy Awards. I would have nominated it, but I would have still probably given the award to Eminem over Emiliana Torrini. Even though I'm such a Lord of the Rings stan. I don't necessarily think that Gollum's song is strong enough. But May It Be and Into the West are in a league of their own in terms of, epic film original songs. And it would have been wonderful for Enya to take home that Oscar. Sadly, it wasn't to be. John Goodman performs a very enthusiastic rendition of this song on the Oscar stage. And he has such charisma and flair with his performance, so it is entertaining to watch. But I still just don't quite understand why this one won out.
I am man, or am I a mob? very manly Muppet.
Another sort of silly, kind of over the top, but basic kind of kids song that made it its way to the top spot in the Academy Awards would be Man or Muppet by Jason Segel and Brett McKenzie from the 2011 movie The Muppets. Um, this won in 2012 for Best Original Song, and I had never heard it before until I filmed this video. I had heard, however, the song The Rainbow Connection, which I believe is also from the soundtrack. And I'm shocked that that song didn't even get a nomination, as I would argue it is a much more memorable and long lived legacy song from the Muppet movie compared to Man or Muppet, which I don't think we've been hearing as many covers of and since sort of had the same kind of conversation around. So don't quite understand that, but I think that's a case of sort of a we don't talk about Bruno with the situation with the Oscars. And what I mean by that is no one knew We Don't Talk About Bruno was going to be the runaway hit. Lin-Manuel Miranda submitted another song from the film that became not nearly as popular to win, and it didn't end up winning anyway. But We Don't Talk About Bruno, had it been submitted, might have been able to. And so I think he sort of is like a little bit regretful of that. But hindsight is 2020. You can't always tell what song is going to run away and become a hit years down the road. And I think they didn't appreciate what they had with the Rainbow Connection at the time. And so they gave us Man or Muppet, which is this sort of cheesy, satirical, look in the mirror and critique yourself ballad about the protagonist of the movie sort of going through this identity crisis. And it's comedic and it's silly and it's fun. The voices are fun. But it's just not that special to me. And so it's middle of the road. We're in middle of the road territory for me here. I don't hate the songs. We're getting into here. I don't really hate any of these songs. Maybe I don't really like It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp. But, otherwise I'm pretty happy with what we got. But moving on, we have Natu Natu. So we come to the most recent award for this year, 2023. M.M. Keeravani and Chandra Bose Bollywood Telugu language song from the film R.R.R. from Netflix, which is, from my understanding, I have not seen the film, a film about two colonial era Indian sort of heroes who sort of helped India on its way to independence. So they're sort of the lesser sung heroes of that whole story. And it's a very action-packed movie. They definitely sort of superheroify these two figures. And I'm not really a fan of historical takes done that way. I like my sort of, more traditional epics, where things are a little more realistically portrayed. So the way this movie has been framed doesn't really look that interesting to me because it just looks like a high-speed action movie with historical context. And watching the music video, boy, is everything like dialed up to 11. The energy is so radiating off of the screen and the speakers. But I do have to be honest with you and say that I'm so happy to see Bollywood style music, Indian dance music recognized in an American centric kind of Western centric setting such as the Academy Awards. But there is a stronger, in my opinion, Indian song that we'll talk about soon that I think still edges this one out. Natu Natu, I've listened to it several times because I really, really want to make sure I give it a fair shot. I was not feeling it the first time I heard it. I think what really sold it for me was the live performance on stage. I think it was one of the most energetic and well choreographed Oscars performances we've seen in quite some time. And it was selling the sort of manic, intense, athletic kind of dance work that this song requires in such a wonderful way that looked like very well rehearsed and thought through. So I was fully enjoying the live performance, but I wasn't really feeling the actual song itself. And I do enjoy it now. It's grown on me, the natu, 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 nat, that's stuck in my head, but there's not enough of a melody to the song for me to be captivated by. It's got rap and it has a bit of a melody, but it's very minimal. It's mostly percussive. very percussive. And I think I need a little bit more in other areas of the instrumental, which another song I'm going to talk about does wonderfully coming up. And so, yeah, some people may be very upset that this is kind of middle of the road. I have this ranked at, spot whatever this is, spot number 22, 21. But for me, there's like 20 other songs that I think are stronger. And so for that reason, I'm sorry, but that's just where we are. I do want to also just talk about, since this is the most recent contest, had it been my way, I would have probably given this to Lady Gaga with Hold My Hand. I know that a lot of Gaga fans aren't madly in love with that song. And I know that the performance was divisive. She was very stripped back. It was giving Joe Calderone energy for Born This Way, that throwback. It was very no makeup, just like a gray t shirt and, like basic pants. I mean, we have never seen Gaga more stripped back. And she was very close to the camera, and it was extremely like pained and it was just emotive, but it sold itself. I feel like it was a clever way to juxtapose the soaring bombacity of the over the top production of the song and the music video for Top Gun Maverick, and doing this close, like almost uncomfortably close, acoustic, very almost a cappella ballad of it was just really jarring in the right way. And I would have given it to her because I do appreciate Lady Gaga, and I think it's a stronger song than The Hunting Ground, for example. But I'm okay with her not taking home the award. She did win for another song, which we'll talk about soon. And if she hadn't won for that, I'd be more upset. Lift Me Up by Rihanna. Others were saying that was a contender. I think it's a nice song. I think it is emotional. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. I think a lot of people with Rihanna were expecting a comeback from her that was going to be more her signature, R&B style, or R&B, hip hop, rap, pop style. And they wanted something edgier and harder. And Lift Me Up was sort of like a gospel ballad that they weren't really feeling. But you have to remember the song is a memorial song to Chadwick Boseman. It's an inspirational song for the film Wakanda Forever. What were you expecting? What were you expecting? And so I think that Rihanna gave a wonderful, graceful performance of it with amazing, costuming and styling and stage setup. But I never really saw it winning. But I wouldn't have hated it if it did. Those were three strong entries we had this year with Natu Natu, and Hold My Hand Hold My Hand and Lift Me Up. I don't think that the Mitski and David Byrne song from Everything Everywhere All at Once had a candle against those. That was the one thing from Everything Everywhere All at Once that flopped. That performance was bad. We can all agree, right? That performance wasn't very good.
Oh, glory, glory, oh, glory.
All right, moving on, we have Glory from the 2015 Academy Awards. John Legend and Common. This is from the movie Selma. I have seen this movie. It is about the Birmingham marches in Selma, Alabama, and Martin Luther King. It's a very important civil rights biopic. I do recommend watching it. I also think that Glory does everything it needs to. I mean, it's a rousing spiritual gospel anthem. The call and response of Glory has you feeling like you're, really getting that spirit. And I do think Common does what needs to be done. His rap is simple. It's very family friendly, which I think it needs to be, and it's kind of refreshing for rap. But it's to the point, which this song did need to be, for the message behind it. Some people may think it's a little too on the nose, and I would agree that could be, an easy critique of it. But for what it's doing, I'm happy with its win. And John Legend does have phenomenal vocals, even though he's somewhat overutilized on the Oscar stage. I was very happy to see it win out over Everything Is Awesome from the Lego Movie. Joke songs like that to me are joke songs, are just a little cringe. That song didn't really do it for me. I'm sorry. I know it's a cult favorite.
The air Feel the hate when they stare, all the pain that we bear. Oh, you better beware. Their guns don't play fair. All we
So we have another entry that feels a little political. From the 2021 Oscar contest, we have Fight for You by H.E.R, DeMille, and Tiara Thomas. This is from the film Judas and the Black Messiah, a film that I have bookmarked to watch, but I have not watched yet. And I do need to see it. For a while, I was getting it mixed with Black Klansman, a movie from a few years earlier. That movie was about the KKK and infiltrating that. This time, it's about someone infiltrating the Black Panther Party. So it's sort of an answer, it's sort of another side of this sort of mid 20th century racial civil rights battle that's been waging. And so the movie does look really good. The song Fight for You by H.E.R is everything I would expect a H.E.R song to sound like. And if you watch my Grammy Awards video, I do believe that H.E.R is an industry plant. I'm sorry. I mean, it's similar to like Diane Warren. She's really promoted by the Academy. They seem to really love her, but she's not really getting love outside of that. The Grammys, the prestigious award organizations really love her. And normally I love that they're not going based on Billboard and charts and stuff, but I do feel like H.E.R is not the most interesting lyricist to talk about these issues. But it's a similar thing with Common. It's family friendly and it's accessible so that people can, dive into the issue and relate to it, even if they don't listen to hip hop. And I do think that that is important when we're talking about, these kinds of awards. Whereas like songs like It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp might be somewhat alienating to listeners who don't listen to hip hop. These songs are, they're kind of meant to please like an older white demographic who might be like, okay, well, we've got to give this genre more recognition, especially if it's about a film about Black culture. So I feel like it's apt to award it. But it is not the song I would have awarded. I would have awarded Husavik from the Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga. But maybe I'm biased because out of all of the other songs nominated, that's the only song I had heard of or seen the movie from. So I don't know if I'm just a little biased there. I just mentioned I don't like joke entries, but that song's actually really good. It's not, taking itself terribly seriously, but it's also a strong song. It's not like a complete joke song. So, but Fight for You in the political movement, the political moment that we were in post 2020, it was very important that H.E.R won, because H.E.R also won that year Grammy, won her Grammy Song of the Year that same winter. It was clearly a, statement speaking about racial injustice. Like, let's be real. It's important. It's important.
remember me, though I have to travel far. Remember me each time you hear a sad guitar.
All right. At number 19, Remember Me from Coco. I actually just watched Coco again last night before filming this video. I had forgotten how wonderful that movie is. One of my favorite Pixar films. I saw it when it first came out. Though I'll admit, Remember Me didn't wow me as a song. It was a little brisk. It was a little, simplistic, melodically and lyrically. I think it's good for like a children's lullaby. And that's kind of serviceable as it is. But it's a Spanish guitar laden, whimsical, by the fireside song that I do think Miguel and Natalia Lafourcade do wonderfully serving for us in the end credit version of the song. It's a little unclear to me what version was nominated, but the songwriters credited for the award are the original songwriters of the song, Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez. The song is sung by various people during the film. It's sung by the character who plays Hector. It's sung by the character who plays Ernesto de la Cruz. And then it's sung by Miguel in end credits. It's also sung by the protagonist is not Coco. It took me so long when I was watching the film to be like, wait, his name is not Coco. The grandmother's name is Coco. The grandmother's name is Coco. The boy's name is Miguel. Similar to the singer who sings it. Wonderful song, definitely deserved to win. I was totally happy with that. And, what can you say? Disney usually knocks it out of the park with these end credit songs.
That I've fallen for a lie. You were never on my side.
At number 18, another James Bond song, No Time to Die. Billie Eilish and Phineas, her brother, the 2022 winner, beat Encanto, which I think is kind of surprising. But like I said, if We Don't Talk About Bruno had actually been nominated, I think it would have stood a chance. Yeah, I like this more than Writings on the Wall. I like this more than Writings on the Wall, but I don't like it more than Skyfall. And that's why it's in the middle here. I think once the song really gets to its melody in the chorus, I'm fully hooked. It takes a little while to get there, though. Billie is doing her sleepy, lethargic delivery, understated delivery that she does, which starts to get a little played out after a while, like the whisper singing, very, very understated. But it starts to really get off on its feet in the melody. But then I don't think it stays on that melody very long. I think if it really kind of centered itself around that, it would be a stronger song. Again, I have not seen the movie. I'm not a James Bond fan. I've only seen Casino Royale, so I can't say if it fits the movie or anything like that. But I'm happy with it winning. It was pretty much a shoo-in. I mean, because We Don't Talk About Bruno wasn't in the conversation. So
I'm locked in tight, I'm out of range. I used to care, but things have changed.
Okay, so at number 17, I believe we have the 2001 winner, Things Have Changed by Bob Dylan from the movie The Wonder Boys. I had not heard of this film until I made this video, and I had not heard of this song until I made this video. To believe it or not, Bob Dylan is one of those, American songwriter greats that I really need to do my homework on. Besides Make You Feel My Love, I couldn't tell you a single song of his. I just have never really listened to his music. It's just completely flown under the radar for me. I know he's not really my time. When this song came out in 2000, he was already sort of retired and not making music anymore. This was kind of a big deal that he put out a song for this film. And that was 22 years ago. So, it's kind of he is definitely passé, unfortunately. He's not kind of keeping his career going by putting out new stuff. But the more I listen to Things Have Changed, the more it grew on me. And I'm kind of surprised they placed the song this high. But I think there is something just captivating about the guitar, captivating about the sort of energy it picks up as it gains momentum. The simplistic sort of catchiness of the hook of the melody, the way that Bob Dylan his lyrics just paint a picture of the mental state he's in as he's feeling the emotion of inner turmoil, just figuring yourself out. I think it's interesting for a movie that's supposedly a comedy to be so dark of a song. Apparently this film is about a novelist teaching creative writing at an elite Pennsylvania university, having an affair with a university chancellor, and he's laboring over this book that he's trying to write, and he's dealing with family drama, relationship drama. It doesn't really look that appealing or interesting, but it's got an all-star cast, Frances McDormand, Robert Downey Jr., Michael Douglas, Tobey Maguire. I mean, I don't know. I'm not surprised I haven't seen it. It seems a bit niche. And probably, not a commercial hit. But yeah, Bob Dylan, I don't know. Just I've grown to really love the song, and it's surprising given that when I first heard it, I kind of placed it in the same vein of The Weary Kind, just another sort of country-esque. Well, that one's more country. This one's a little bit more just more general guitar ballad, classic rock ballad. But one definitely has a lot more listenability. Just post a little editing ad here. I'm very surprised that Now We Are Free by Lisa Gerrard and Hans Zimmer from Gladiator was somehow not nominated in the 2001 Oscars for Best Original Song. That seemed very strange to me. Again, some strange snubs here and there. And also, I completely forgot to mention Björk was nominated for I've Seen It All from Dancer in the Dark at the 2001 Oscars. As we all know, she attended with the swan dress, the iconic swan dress, and she performed on stage. I'm not so surprised she didn't win, but still, I would have given that to her over Bob Dylan. Um, I completely forgot about that while I was making the video. That makes me feel a little bit less strongly about that song. But what are you going to do? You know, I think that the universe wasn't ready for Björk to win an Academy Award for Best Original Song, even though she wrote the hell out of that one. But I gotta be honest, we reach a turning point here at number 16. We're about halfway through, and the next 16 songs are songs that I actually have on my phone. There are a couple before this that I do as well, like Remember Me. But by and large, most of the songs I've already talked about are songs that I've either only heard for the first time making this video or are songs that I just have never really felt that like inclined to like purchase on iTunes or listen to repeatedly, have on my phone, so to speak. And so now we get into the stronger category.
I need to wake up. I need to change. I need to shake up. I need to speak out.
We have I Need to Wake Up, Melissa Etheridge from An Inconvenient Truth. Melissa does her thing. I mean, she sells the emotion of what the film is trying to do, which is to galvanize you, tug at the heartstrings with a strong melody, and get you thinking about your life and the decisions you've made. I mean, An Inconvenient Truth, the film by Al Gore about climate change, is a film that everyone should see. You know, it's a bit dated now, obviously. We're not in 2005 anymore. And he did come out with an inconvenient sequel 10 years later, which wasn't as good, but, you know, what sequels never are, right? But there is a power to the urgency, the message. It's a universal song, and I think that most people would enjoy it. I see it as an easy win, and I'm not surprised it did. So I will say that both Listen and Patience from Dreamgirls, both of those songs getting snubbed. One of them, if one of them had to go, I would have given it to Listen, or I don't know. I Listen by Beyonce is one of my favorite Beyonce songs. Patience, I believe, is the one sung by Jennifer Hudson. Yeah, I don't know. It is Love You, I Do by Dreamgirls. I mean, you know, I think that may have rubbed the Black community the wrong way. I didn't watch the Oscars in 2007, and I certainly wasn't on Twitter in 2007. But seeing a white woman win for this song over 3 songs written for Black women to perform, you know, in Dreamgirls, which is such a phenomenal movie. There was also, of course, Randy Newman with a Cars song, which is kind of funny that, you know, he gets nominated for everything he writes for Pixar, doesn't he? I don't know. I see how that could have rubbed some people the wrong way. I mean, I think that that was why they decided having so many nominees from one film and then having none of them win is not such a good look. Because it makes the snub feel that much harsher. It's like, well, we're going to nominate you 3 times. You've got 3 times out of 5. You got a great shot of winning. But no, guess what? You're not going to win still. And maybe I don't know if a lot of people saw this one winning. I feel like it probably didn't have a lot of buzz beforehand. It was probably shocking. So I don't know. Yeah, Dreamgirls was robbed. I don't know. It's kind of surprising. It's also kind of surprising because they didn't get anything for original score, though I wasn't surprised they would. I don't think they weren't nominated. Pan's Labyrinth was snubbed for original score in 2007. Can we talk about that? Why the hell did Javier Navarrete not walk home with that? What is Babel by Gustavo Santaolalla? I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not a film buff. I don't know all these winners. But yeah, Pan's Labyrinth was right there. That score got criminally robbed, just like James Newton Howard's score for The Village was robbed in 2005. Let's not go there. Anyway, that's another video that I will make.
When we're together, gray skies clearer, and I cheer to where I'm less depressed.
So, Randy Newman deservedly won We Belong Together, Toy Story 3 in 2011. I have no problem with this. We Belong Together is the perfect follow-up to You Belong With Me. It is the brother song Melodically, it's new and fresh, but it also carries the flavor of carefree, melodic, sort of nostalgia that "You Got a Friend with Me" was just built for. So Randy Newman deserved. Um, the only thing that kind of is like a little bit like, oh, it's a shame, but Alan Menken has already gotten his dues for so long, would be the fact that "I See the Light" from Tangled didn't win. Um, I mean, it would have been another strong contender. I kind of feel like Randy Newman, I don't know. If he hadn't won for "If I Didn't Have You" or "You've Got a Friend in Me," I would have definitely given it to him for "We Belong Together." But he did win for Monsters Inc. But, at the same time, he still didn't win for "You Got a Friend with Me," which I'm okay with because Colors of the Wind deserved that win over "You've Got a Friend with Me." I mean, it was a hard competition between those two songs. They both competed against each other, but I am so glad that Colors of the Wind won out. And we'll talk about that song in a bit. But Tangled's "I See the Light" I'm so sorry. That is a so strong song. It's really, really good. Classic Disney kind of song that we don't get a lot of these days. Let It Go, who? Like, "I See the Light," much stronger. But speaking of Let It Go,
Well, now they know. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go.
at number 14, I believe we're at. Correct me, I'll correct myself if I'm wrong. I don't have these labeled on the thing I'm looking at, so I'm sort of guessing what number I'm at. We have the 2014 winner by also the same writers of Remember Me, Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez from Frozen, Let It Go, performed by Idina Menzel in the movie and performed by her at the Oscars. It's been interesting watching all of these Oscars performances that I had never seen or maybe saw once and forgot in lieu of making this video. And poor Idina, she really had a rough night at the 2014 Oscars because that last note was, you can just tell by the look on her face. I'm going to play a clip here.
Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway.
Yeah, when she says the cold never bothered me anyway, you feel it. You can see it in her face. Apparently, she was suffering from a cold that night. And so she kind of was worried that she wasn't going to be able to hit that obscenely high note. And you could tell that she wasn't up to snuff with it. And, I think her voice has taken a lot of damage over the years. I mean, she is a power belter, a power mezzo soprano. So, it's going to take some toll on the voice. And unfortunately, it's going to be hard to always be on top form. But Idina is so wonderful, with what she does. She can knock a ballad out of the park. Even if her style in singing is a little over dramatic and a little too Broadway for me, I still sign up for whatever it is she's serving here, especially when it's with Disney. But I actually think Into the Unknown might actually be an more interesting melody. Let It Go, as we all know, is probably the most overrated Disney song. It was, the first Disney song since A Whole New World back in the 90s to seriously get some Billboard chops. We Don't Talk About Bruno actually overtook Let It Go and was even more popular. But, it was a huge hit for Disney, which I don't know if they anticipated, especially since I See the Light didn't really make that much traction. It's not nearly as well known, even though Tangled was a successful film in its own right. It's kind of interesting. Everything about Frozen was just so overrated. And I've actually only seen the movie once, and I do need to see it again, but it's not worth all the hype. But it was, again, mostly the children marketing. But yeah, it definitely deserved to win. I'm not upset with it winning. I'm definitely glad it beat out Happy by Pharrell Williams. I love Pharrell, but that song, again, it's like Can't Stop the Feeling. That song does not make me feel happy. Just so unnecessarily cheesy and made for, retail radio to just nonstop play into oblivion while you die inside. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
It's vanished and gone. At night I hear the blood in my veins, just as black and whispering as the rain.
So we have our first of our 3 overlaps with the Grammy Song of the Year awardees. The Best Original Song winner. You might be like, Arthur, but wasn't it 1990? Wasn't this the winner for 1996 in your Grammy Award winning video? There's a long and complicated reason why the Grammys and the Oscars don't exactly sync up in terms of their eligibility periods. It's a little confusing, but basically, the Grammy Award winner, the Grammy nomination period for the Grammys of the subsequent year is different by several months to what the Oscars are. That means songs released in October through December of a year preceding the Grammys are not eligible until the following Grammys a year later. Whereas with the Oscars, it's basically anything released within, I would say, pretty much the entire previous calendar year. There's some January films do make it into the Oscars of that year, but I believe almost any film that comes out in January had to have originally premiered the year before. Everything has to premiere within, like, for example, this past year, the 2022 award ceremony was for the 2023 Academy Awards, everything that was released in 2022. That makes any sense. The Grammys aren't neatly fit within the calendar year. So that's why you get some songs being nominated well over a year after they were released. And it is the case for Streets of Philadelphia from the movie Philadelphia by Bruce Springsteen. This song was nominated and won at the Academy Awards in 1995, but it was not nominated until the Grammy Awards in 1996. When it won Song of the Year. So that's just, you'll see that in a couple other instances because a lot of big heavy hitter songs and movies come from movies that are released closest to Oscar season. A lot of major studios like to put out their big contenders at the end of the year. And so you see a lot of songs, from that, if they're big songs, like from Titanic, for example, they miss the eligibility period for the coming up Grammys. They have to go into the following year. Anyway, enough of that. I've talked about this song in my Grammy video, and I'm just going to rehash that I do think that this is a really interesting song for Bruce. I have not seen the movie. Definitely am interested in it, though, just watching the music video. I am from Philadelphia, so there's a hometown sort of empathy there. And he really sells the moody atmosphere of the song, and it's very atmospheric, and it's like a foggy kind of atmosphere in the song and the production of it, and it really feels like someone going through it. It really feels, you feel the emotion and the sort of confusion in their mind. The downcast feel of it it's fitting, and it's kind of interesting to see when a song like this win. But and maybe if Bruce's name hadn't been attached to it, it wouldn't have been as successful. There was another song from Philadelphia, the soundtrack, nominated by Neil Young that it lost out to. But out of these nominations, from what I know, it seems like the deserving winner. Although some people probably felt like Janet Jackson got snubbed. I'm sure there's discussion around that. So that other Indian song I talked to you about, that's the 2009 Best Original Song winner, Jai-Ho by A.R. Rahman. From Slumdog Millionaire, the sort of runaway hit that film was. I remember watching it around Oscar season that year, and I enjoyed it. It's a high energy, sort of sleek, well-edited film. I think it's got amazing cinematography. I don't know if people think it's aged as well as it should for a Best Picture nominee. I don't think people kind of think of it as deserving of that picture title anymore, but I think it deserved for the flavor, for the sort of touch of the glimpse of India. It gave us the breakout star Dev Patel. And Jai-Ho is undeniably a hit. I think A.R. Rahman's just sample over it, and then his sing rapping, and then the electrifying orchestral backbeats mixed with the undeniable drums and percussion, it just makes you want to get up and dance. And for me, I just feel it a little stronger than Natu Natu, which just feels a little all over the place and chaotic. Jai-Ho feels a little bit more artfully composed, a little bit more structured, with a melody, with a bridge, with chorus, with verse, and it just has a stronger hook. Now, of course, a lot of us probably think about the Pussycat Dolls and their version of Jai-Ho. They did also perform a remixed version, a more pop version, featuring A.R. Rahman from the film. It's not in the film. It was sort of used as a standalone single from the Pussycat Dolls in 2009. And I love their music video, and I love Nicole Scherzinger's take on it. But ultimately, I see why it was, of course, nominated for the original film. The soundtrack to Slumdog Millionaire is very strong as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the soundtrack also did win that year. It did. It was up against not very much, except another song in its category, Oh Saya by A.R. Rahman and MIA. And it's another song I really love from the soundtrack. If you know my channel, you know I love MIA, also known as Maya Arulpragazam, a Sri Lankan UK rapper who, her big hit Paper Planes was also featured on the soundtrack, though it was not written for this movie. That song came out in 2007 from her album Kala, but the song was sort of made popular by the movie Slumdog Millionaire. So MIA was tied to the soundtrack, and it's a shame that she lost out on that because that would have been an Oscar award for her. But at the end of the day, I kind of admit J-Ho is a stronger song. It's just a little bit more. It's the closing credits song, and just has a little bit more of that iconic memorability. But Osaya is strong as well. A great showcase of electro sort of Bollywood music. I don't know how to explain that, but I highly recommend the soundtrack.
Sometimes I fear myself. I'm of the deep end. Watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground.
At number 11, we have Shallow by Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper from A Star Is Born, the 2019 Best Original Song winner. What can I say? This one was very well deserved. I made a video about A Star Is Born when the film came out. I reviewed the soundtrack and the movie back in 2018. I am just absolutely perplexed that this is not a case of this song also winning the Grammy Song of the Year. It lost to This Is America in both categories. But it wasn't even nominated for Song of the Year. It was only put up for Record of the Year. I talk about it in that video how puzzling that was. Childish Gambino's This Is America winning over Shallow just doesn't really make any sense. But Shallow deservedly won. No other song really stood a chance at that year over its competition. And Gaga and Bradley just sold it so wonderfully on stage. It all got us wondering, will they be in a relationship together? Which, of course, we all saw was played up for the film and the promotion of it. But their chemistry on the stage was just electrifying. Although, I will admit, The Place Where the Lost Things Go from Mary Poppins Returns holds a special place in my heart. I do love that song. I think it is just as strong of a melody and song as the original songs from the original film, Feed the Birds. I sad for that song not winning, but it was also Shallow's year. There was no way it stood a chance.
I've drowned and dreamt this moment, so overdue I owe them.
So we reach my top 10. I feel very strongly about these 10 songs just being excellent songs that 100% deserve their wins. There's really no disputing it. And in the interest of brevity, I'm not going to spend terribly long on each one because I have spent a lot of time talking about these, but this is a long video, so what are you going to do? At number 10, we have Skyfall by Adele. This one's creeped up in my rankings because I've never seen Skyfall. I'd never really listened to the song that much when it first came out. I just wasn't really paying that much attention. But in doing the research for this video, I've fallen in love with the song. I see where the hype comes from. I mean, she really sells that melody, and that melody that she crafts is so James Bondian, but it also is just so classic. It couldn't have been written any other way. I don't know. There's no other James Bond song that comes close to it. That's how I feel. That's how I feel, at least in the modern era. And so I 100% get behind that win. It beat out Les Mis, the big movie musical that came out that year. It was deserved.
Certainties disappear. What do we do for our dream to survive? How do we keep?
Next, we have You Must Love Me, performed by Madonna at the 1997 Oscars. Unfortunately, even though the song did win, Madonna was not credited as an Oscar winner because she was not attached to the song. The song was written by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice. She just performed it. And criminally, she did not get a Best Actress nomination, which is quite disappointing, even though she did get the Golden Globe that year. It's widely considered a big snub that Madonna was kind of snubbed out of the Oscars, as she 100% should have been nominated for Best Actress in Evita. That was just a very strange, glaring omission. But she still showed up to the Oscars gracefully to sing the song, probably showcasing her strongest vocal control she's ever had. I mean, this was right when she was, pre Ray of Light, like really training her voice to reach its full potential. She was classically focused on delivering the music for this song, for this film, as wonderfully as possible. But you know what's criminal? You know what is criminal? I still haven't seen the dang movie. At 30 years of age, I have still not seen Evita. As big of a Madonna fan as I am, it is on my list. It is on my list along with Judas and the Black Messiah. These are movies that doing this video has just made me remember we need to get to step in because I need to see these movies. It's absolutely out of the question. Out of the question. I promise you, I will see Evita very soon. If I had to, be a little bit picky here, I would say that I'm a little disappointed looking at the nominees that Alan Menken didn't get any love for original songs for The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which I argue is the strongest Alan Menken Disney song soundtrack. Now, it did get nominated for original musical and comedy score. Unfortunately, it lost to Emma by Rachel Portman, but its omission in original song is disheartening, particularly for God Help the Outcasts or Out There. Either one of those songs would have definitely, I think, been, and I know that I believe Bette Midler performed God Help the Outcasts for the end credits, but it was sung so wonderfully by Esmeralda's voice actress in the movie, and it is just one of the most beautiful Disney ballads. So Hunchback getting snubbed there, and I'm not so happy about it. It's one of the few times that Disney didn't get the recognition that it deserves, even though it did luckily get a nomination for, like I said, Best Original Score. But it also lost, so I'm not happy about that. But it was up against some heavy hitters, but what are you going to do?
Words fall through me and always fool me, and I can't react.
At number 8, Falling Slowly by Glenn Hansard and Markita Iglova from Once. This is the 2008 Best Original Song winner. I have seen this movie. I highly recommend you all see it. It is a musical. It is a wonderful sort of snapshot of two people sort of awkwardly meeting each other in Dublin, Ireland, and forming a band together. And I don't know, the premise might sound boring, but just watch the movie. The music is also just so phenomenal. It inspired a Broadway musical after it. And Glenn Hansard and Markita Iglova are just phenomenal musicians. And Falling Slowly was deserved to be the winner. I mean, that is a song that will always carry such emotion for me. I remember listening to it on CD back when the film came out because my parents bought the CD and I listened to the soundtrack quite a lot. It did, of course, do a similar thing that An Inconvenient Truth did for Dreamgirls. So this is actually the moment where they probably said, yeah, this is too much. We can't have 3 songs nominated from one film and have none of them win. Because Enchanted, the Amy Adams live-action Disney animated film, got snubbed for Happy Working Song, That's How You Know, and So Close. I would argue that the only song that really deserves to be nominated here is That's How You Know. I think that's the really only memorable song. Maybe also the opening one from that one. I can't remember the name of it. That's How You Know is my favorite from Enchanted. I would have said that, was the only other one that had a chance. August Rush had a chance in there too, but it unfortunately just came out at a bad time against Once. And so everything in our favor. And there was some controversy around whether Falling Slowly, because it had already been released on an album in 2006 by the duo, because they have a band together called The Swell Season. Because it had been already released on that album, whether it should have qualified, but it ultimately stuck. And it won the award. And so again, I feel like it definitely, again, sorry, Alan Menken, you can't win every time. You should have won for Hunchback, but for Enchanted, I'm okay with you getting snubbed. I'm okay with you getting snubbed for Enchanted.
We're only dreaming.
A whole new world, a dazzling place I never knew. But when I'm way up
Our second overlap with Grammy Song of the Year goes to The Year I Was Born, 1993, A Whole New World. Alan Menken. I was technically not alive when this was awarded. I was still in the womb, but I'm counting it for one of my favorite Disney films, Aladdin. Is there not much more I need to say? I think it's really interesting that watching the performance, we end and begin this journey of the last 31 years with two very Middle Eastern Indian songs performed on stage with over the top costuming and theatricality. Because Brad Kane and Leah Salonga coming on stage in character, amongst, this Arab town square setting and all of the costumes and dancing is just something we don't see a lot of at the Oscars. I mean, they were really committed to the assignment and selling the song, and it showed. And Natu Natu was doing the same thing, with the backdrop being very much the setting of the movie and doing a great job at bringing that to life on stage. Arab Indian excellence, even though Brad Kane and Leah Salonga are not Middle Eastern, Arab, or Indian. They are Filipina and white. So they don't really, there's some whitewashing going on there, but that was the 90s. What are you going to do? But A Whole New World is just top tier Alan Menken. So what are you going to do? But believe it or not, this song was number 2 on my Grammy Award video, and it is number 7 on this video. There are 6 songs that beat it out, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But there just are so many great songs that, should have gotten Grammy nominations, but didn't. And only one of them that's coming up also did get that honor, and I'll talk about it soon.
Yes, you'll be in my heart from this day on now.
So at number 6, we have You'll Be in My Heart by Phil Collins for the movie Tarzan. Oh my gosh. I mean, this song is just like the most heartbreaking, nostalgic childhood Disney song. I don't know. I'm not a huge Phil Collins fan, but what he does on this one, he wrote it apparently for his daughter. And every time I listen to it, I just get emotional because I do think about like parents and their children and the theme of the movie. There is something about Tarzan, like it's not the best Disney movie, but I did love watching it growing up. The scene where Tarzan loses his family was, hard to watch as a kid. Like it really hit me. Like it just felt so tragic and sad. And of course, he's adopted by the gorilla mother. But in the context of the song, and of course, Glenn Close, who plays the gorilla mother, actually sings a kind of acoustic version of the song in the film, which is of course not the version that's nominated, but it's a nice part of the soundtrack. And I'm getting teary just talking about it. It is a cheesy song. It is schmaltzy. I remember they played it at when I graduated in elementary school. From 5th grade, we had a chorus concert and we performed a lot of Disney songs at this chorus concert. And the send-off song to our retired gym teacher was this montage. And we sang it. There was a soloist who sang part of it. And then we all listened to a recording of Phil Collins singing this song. And I'll always associate this song with ending elementary school because of that. My 4th grade teacher also made a videotape with a ton of songs from this soundtrack, including this one. As a year-end gift to all of us for 4th grade. And so that also had a lot of kind of nostalgic emotion attached to it. It's like a bittersweet kind of, this is the end of a great time. We'll always remember you. Anyway, so You'll Be in My Heart is just made to tug on the heartstrings. I don't know what else to say. It's just top tier, 100% deserved the win. But when people talk about great classic Disney songs, I don't feel like people talk about this song enough. And maybe it's because people find it too schmaltzy or overrated, but I don't know. I don't agree. And once again, Randy Newman got beat out with When She Loved Me from Toy Story 2. So I'm sure Randy felt pretty snubbed going into Monsters Inc. He's like, "You're not going to give it to me for Toy Story 1 or Toy Story 2, even though When She Loved Me is nowhere near You've Got a Friend in Me." All right, we are at the top 5, the cream of the crop.
Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, or asked the grinning bobcat why he grinned? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountain?
Colors of the Wind, the 1996 winner by Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz, sung by Judy Kuhn in the film, but even more memorably performed by Vanessa Williams at the 1996 Academy Awards. I actually only watched the performance for the first time prepping for this video, and just something about the dancers on stage and how she looks, the elegance of it, the drapery work. Some people think that they are doing a little too much, that let's just focus on Vanessa and let her sell the emotion of the song. But I think it was very artfully done. I think it was very tastefully done. Colors of the Wind. I mean, Pocahontas, and I'm going to talk about classic Disney in another video at some point, because I got to break down like what we're all talking about with Disney. Like Pocahontas gets a lot of hate through a modern lens. People view it as sort of the one film from the Renaissance that's not good. I've seen some people put it in like the bottom 5 of like all 60 Disney animated films. I got to be honest with you, as someone who grew up with this movie, I don't exactly understand how people can say that this movie is actually worse than some of the Disney movies that they put out in the 2010s and 2000s. Like, it boggles my mind, but it obviously maybe speaks to someone who didn't grow up with the movie. Because the one person I'm thinking of who did this reviewing was born in the 2000s and probably didn't really have a connection to it. They saw it for the first time as an adult, and they saw the connotation, the conversation that preceded that, which was that this is a very historically inaccurate story, albeit possibly somewhat problematic, even though I would argue that Disney is not trying to frame this as historically accurate, that Disney has a track record of taking stories that might be vaguely real and twisting them into a fairy tale that we all can see is a fairy tale. I don't really think it's that much of a problem. I actually think there's still some really important messages in this film that, regardless of historical accuracy, ring true. For children, it's a great story. So I find it a little hard when people really dump on this film. But the biggest thing that this film has going for it is the music. Alan Menken was in his bag doing his thing. While Hans Zimmer and Elton John were working on The Lion King, which of course Disney did not think would be a huge hit. They thought Pocahontas was going to be their Oscar bait huge hit. Alan Menken was busy at work giving the real life force to Pocahontas that it needed. And boy, does Colors of the Wind, I mean, so beautifully articulate the theme of the movie, but also the theme of social interaction between cultures and peoples, and seeing the deeper beauty within all of us and living things. I mean, Colors of the Wind, Circle of Life, and other Disney songs touch on that as well, but there's just a spiritual resonance to this one that is unmatched with a lot of other movie musical songs. I suppose another song coming up on this list would touch on that as well, and we'll get to that. But, I mean, Colors of the Wind is a phenomenal song. The vocal dynamics that can be showcased, just the soaring orchestral elements. Colors of the Wind deserved the win, and sorry you've got a friend in me. You were up against tough competition. I don't know what else to say.
Can be miracles when you believe, though hope is frail, it's hard to kill.
So, the next song I do want to talk about that has a spiritual resonance. When You Believe, performed by Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston from The Prince of Egypt. This was the 1999 Best Original Song winner. And, Reflection by Mulan, I believe it was nominated, but in any other year it would have swept. But this was Prince of Egypt's year. This was Prince of Egypt's year. Oh my gosh, Reflection was not nominated? Oh, I'm actually kind of shocked. But that's what it is. Okay, people weren't feeling Mulan. I do see that Mulan was nominated for original. Again, the category was called original musical or comedy score back then. It's changed now to just original score. Interestingly, The Prince of Egypt did not win original score. I disagree with that. I think it 100% should have won because Hans Zimmer did a phenomenal job with the orchestral pieces. I mean, just listen to The Burning Bush, okay? Just listen to The Burning Bush. Whether you've seen the movie or not, you will be moved. You will be moved. I mean, it is musical alchemy, emotional alchemy, what he does with the melody on that song, as well as, of course, Deliver Us, the opening. The Yeah, I can't rave about the Prince of Egypt enough. Boy, did DreamWorks start out on such a high, and then yeah, we went down in the valleys, and apparently we're going back up again with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I still have not seen that movie, but anyway, it's nowhere going to be near Prince of Egypt. Let's be real. But yes, I'm happy that this song won. The live performance, I'd never seen it before, but just we're never going to get a duo like Mariah and Whitney again. I mean, rest in peace to Whitney. It's such a shame because they were so respectful of each other's power on stage. They weren't trying to outdo each other. I mean, these are two vocalists who are just like cream of the crop and in the peak of their careers and just selling Disney magic, even though it's not a Disney song, it feels like it could be for a Disney song. Yeah, I know this win doesn't really go to Mariah and Whitney as they did not write the song. It was written by Stephen Schwartz. It's the one thing that Hans Zimmer didn't contribute to on the soundtrack. He didn't write this song, but I mean, come on, it is just such a wonderful moment, and 100% deserving. So, yeah, big Prince of Egypt fan here. I don't know anyone who isn't.
And can you feel the love tonight? It is where we are.
But then finally we get to the big three. And again, it's hard for me to rank which one's stronger than the other. I could have easily seen When You Believe been up higher, but I ultimately decided to put Can You Feel the Love Tonight by Elton John from The Lion King, the 1995 Best Original Song winner. I decided to put this one at number 3 because I ultimately think that this is just one of those songs that takes your breath away. When you first hear it, the immediacy, the emotional vulnerability of the lyrics, of the melody, the way it opens up. Elton has just such a captivating presence on the track. I love the music video of him just sort of in the studio and glimpses of one of Disney's pinnacles in animation being shown just throughout in these windows and these vignettes. It reeks of love and passion for art, not just for the movie, which obviously the animators and Disney were like putting so much passion into The Lion King and all these kind of Disney classics. But the fact that, I don't know, the music itself too was just so well considered. It makes me really sad for the state of like a lot of major franchises and studios today. It just doesn't seem like there's that same level of care, of passion being put into writing original music for movies and animation, hand-drawn animation in particular. Apparently, we're getting hand-drawn animation back with Wish this November. I'm very excited for Disney to revive that. It's going to be a mix of CGI and hand-drawn. That's what the word on the street is. And it's going to be a musical as well. So hopefully it'll be very successful. But yes, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? 100% deserved the win. I mean, what else can I say? The Lion King deserved the win for Best Original Score. And, the other Lion King songs that were nominated, I would argue also deserved. I mean, Circle of Life, I could have easily seen giving it to that, but not Hakuna Matata. Not Hakuna Matata. But I could have seen Circle of Life taking it, but I definitely understand why those songs were nominated. At number 2, you probably wondered when this one was coming, but you might be surprised it's not at number 1, or this might not be surprising. At number 2, My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion and James Horner from Titanic. This was the 1998 winner of Best Original Song at the Oscars, but it was the 1999 Grammy Song of the Year winner, as well as Record of the Year winner. This is, again, the third song that overlaps with the Grammys, but like I said, it was released in November of 1997, which was out of the window of eligibility for the 1998 Grammys. The 1998 Grammys would have ended their nomination eligibility in September or October of 1997. So it was eligible for the following year at the Grammys. But the Oscars, it was just anything released in 1997, if that makes any sense. So need I say any more about this one? I've already talked about how much I love this song. Since I was little, I've loved it. I heard it on the radio at 5 years old, 6 years old, and just it took off with me. Celine Dion can sell this like nothing else. The best melody ever written. Not hyperbole, not hyperbole. I believe it. Yeah, something special. Definitely deserved. Also, the score in general by James Horner for that film is phenomenal. I was revisiting recently, and that theme is interpolated throughout much of the score, and it's just so wonderfully done. So it 100% deserved the original score. But notice how it won differently from original musical or comedy score. That was when they sort of had dramatic score go in a different category. There were some heavy hitters in this year. I mean, Hercules, Go the Distance by Alan Menken, not the strongest Alan Menken Disney ballad, but I definitely deserve to be nominated. And then there was also Journey to the Past from Anastasia. I would argue Once Upon a December is a stronger song, and I'm a little surprised that that song was not nominated. But Journey to the Past is strong. I think Aaliyah did a version of the song, like a pop version, for the end credits. Yeah, it had competition, but it was always going to go to Titanic. There was just no way. And so now, drum roll please, what is at number one? Well, if you know me, this probably isn't going to be that shocking. And you probably also, by process of elimination, can guess what's next.
What can you see on the horizon? Why do the white gulls call?
So yeah, it was pretty much a no-brainer when I sat down to make this video that I knew that Titanic, My Heart Will Go On will be number 2, and Into the West by Annie Lennox and Howard Shore from The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King would be number 1. I knew these would be the top 2, and I did debate flipping them at one point, but then I ultimately decided to edge out with Into the West because Lord of the Rings, Return of the King is my favorite movie of all time. The soundtrack is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time, and if not my favorite soundtrack of all time, and this is probably my favorite credit song of all time. Or movie song. Into the West is just so epically written, so fitting for the end of a journey that is so emotional and kind of wearisome in how powerful it was as a journey. I mean, if you've watched Return of the King for the first time in theaters, at the end of the movie, you just feel like you've been through so much, and the end has them going off into the Grey Havens. And the film is about sailing off, basically about death. But, it's a more kind of transcendental view of that. Obviously, the idea of going into the West, sailing into the West, is a Tolkienian idea about going to Valinor, the undying lands across the sea, where the elves all go eventually. And Frodo and a couple other mortals and Bilbo are gifted the chance to go there and live there forever. And it is just, it is a funereal song in that sense because it carries the weight of someone passing on. I have a very visceral connection to it because when my cat, Butterscotch, my beloved cat of 17 years, died in 2020, it was actually the night before we were going to put her to sleep. I listened to this song, and I don't know, I haven't cried for music in such a almost pitiful way. Almost, I don't know if I want to say ever, but at least in a long time. And I think it also was somewhat the fact that, at the time, the film was 17 years old, and my cat Butterscotch was born in 2003, and this song came out in 2003. And so I was sort of associating it with her and the journey that I've had in the last 17 years since the film came out. And I listened to the song and I lost it. I never felt so much grief for losing something And of course, this is just my cat. I can't imagine if I lost a close family member. I don't even want to think about it. Because this is a celebratory song, even though there's glimmers of darkness. It says hope fades, it talks about the world getting darker and finding it hard to see the light. But through it all, there is always that window out into the west that is beckoning towards us, where the seagulls fly, and so I just, yeah, I don't know. I'd always loved the song, but after that moment, it just sort of washed over me how powerful this one was. The lyrics mixed with the melody, both are completely on point and very Tolkienian. I think that Tolkien would have been very proud of this song, and I honestly really wish he was alive to hear it. I don't know. Anyway, and Christopher Tolkien, I know he was such a crotchety old man about these movies, but if he wouldn't listen to that song and not feel the spirit of his father, I don't know. He would have had to have been really divorced from any sort of feeling about this film to not feel something from something truly magical taking place when Annie Lennox took to that stage in uh, February of 2004 to perform this song. And of course, deservedly sweet. The Oscars, were the Lord of the Rings Return of the King Oscars that year. They won Best Original Score, understandably so. And in original song, they did have, two songs from Cold Mountain that in any other year I would 100% get behind. Scarlet Tide from Cold Mountain, written by T-Bone Burnett and Elvis Costello. That's a wonderful song. That is a really powerful, emotive, funereal ballad. Talk about a heavy year for music when you have that and You Will Be My Aim True Love. Yeah, I don't know. It's a shame that Cold Mountain, that movie, had to come out the same year as Return of the King, because that soundtrack, which was almost also nominated, kind of should have won as well. But at the same time, this was always going to be Return of the King's year. If only it could have been 2005, a year later, when we get It's Hard Out Here for a I gotta be honest with you. Okay, 2 years later, we get It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp, and the year before that, El Otro Lado del Rio, which, those are two songs that it's a week period in the Oscars, I think, for Best Original Song. And if Cold Mountain couldn't have come out just a little bit later, it could have gotten its dues. So that's a shame. But yeah, that, I mentioned May It Be by Enya, and I also love that song and love Enya, as you know. So I have a hard time saying which I prefer, because both do the same thing, but also give me slightly different energy. May It Be is also very lamentative, but at the same time hopeful. But Into the West is maybe even a little bit more optimistic, but at the same time mournful. I don't know. They're both incredible melodies, and they both close out the films and the spirit of Tolkien, ride the spirit of Tolkien like nothing else. So I don't know. Bravo to Howard Shore and to Enya and Annie Lennox, and of course Emiliana Torrini. We won't forget about you. You did your thing. But speaking of, I do want to just briefly mention, I am disappointed that the last goodbye from The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies, performed and sung by Billy Boyd, written by, I believe it was written by Howard Shore, did not get nominated at the 2015 Academy Awards. I feel like the Hobbit films definitely didn't really deserve any recognition beyond some, maybe special effects or costume nods. But if there was anything that the Hobbit films did right, it was that closing song, "The Last Goodbye," from the Battle of the Five Armies, performed by the actor who played Peregrine Took in the original films. Having him come back and sing that closing song, which is just, again, in the spirit, though it's a little bit more homely, it's a little more acoustic. It fits a little bit more of the earthy kind of Hobbit vibe compared to the epic orchestral elements that are so majestic of Lord of the Rings. The Last Goodbye is just such a wonderful, and actually I'd argue the Ed Sheeran song for the Desolation of Smaug does a good job at selling that, and the Neil Finn song, Song of the Lonely Mountain. None of those songs were nominated, and It's a bit of shame because, the Hobbit films were definitely lackluster, but the closing credits songs still were doing their thing. This time they chose three men instead of three women, but I also think that's fitting because The Hobbit doesn't really have women in the story, but I don't know. I feel The Last Goodbye, maybe it would still not have won over Glory from Selma, but it could have at least gotten nominated. That's just how I feel. Boy, I have spent a long time talking about this. This is one of my longer videos, but I just have so much to say. What am I going to say? It's 31 songs I have to talk about. But I feel pretty good about my ranking, and ultimately, this is how it stands. Into the West was always going to be my number one. I'd be very interested to know what your favorites were. What songs would you have put in your top 10 out of this list? What is your favorite song of the entire 90-year history of the Academy Awards? What's your favorite and least favorite best original song? I'd be very interested to hear. If I were to rank all of the songs, it gets a little harder, but I gotta be honest with you, I still think Into the West would be number one. I don't think there's any question about that, though I definitely think Over the Rainbow would probably creep up into the top five. Just because, you don't write a song like Over the Rainbow and not have people still remembering it 80, 90 years later, as iconic as it is. Like, that melody changed something. Again, just transcendent. No, Chim Chim Cherie is not my favorite song from Mary Poppins, so I don't know if I'd put that super high, but yeah, I don't know. There's some classics, but I definitely think it's more the recent, well, the 90s especially. As you see in this video, a lot of my top 10 are songs that came out in the 90s. You can tell that the Oscars, it's dipped a little bit. It's just not quite the same. But that's largely because Disney is just not, I don't know, they're just not working with Alan Menken as much. Though Alan Menken has been working with Disney still. It's largely on these remakes, which they're not going to remake an original, song that already got nominated, like for Beauty and the Beast, for example. Because I actually would argue that for the Beauty and the Beast remake, How Does a Moment Last Forever by Celine Dion and Alan Menken should have gotten nominated for the 2018 Oscars. I would have argued for that nomination, but it didn't get nominated. I think How Does a Moment Last Forever is a very strong song for the credits, in the spirit of the original Beauty and the Beast. But that's another one that would have been in the top 10 is Beauty and the Beast. So, like I said, let me know in the comments. Remember, this is just my opinion. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I know it was long, but I had a lot to talk about. My voice is shot, so I'm going to turn this off. Please give this a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new here. Check out that Grammy Song of the Year video if you're interested. I am going to do another video in lieu of this series of the last 30 years. Where I'm going to talk about the last 30 years of Eurovision winners, and I'm going to rank them. So stay tuned for that after the next upcoming 2023 contest, which is going to be in a few weeks. So that'll be sometime this summer. And with that, I am going to sign off. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day. Peace, love, and light. Bye.